Hey guys, it's a gorgeous day here in England. Talk to me a little bit about Liverpool and their biggest problem, or potentially the biggest problem from last season. Outside of obviously press controversy and people thinking that Arne Slot isn't a good manager, that's not our problem, that's yours. Fatigue. How have Liverpool countered that? And why has this summer looked to begin to solve, if not for at least this season, solved a lot of those issues? Well, first of all, minutes on people's legs last season were part of the problem when it came to playing teams like PSG. Those guys are incredibly intense, but also they have a very different league structure, should we say, to the one that Liverpool have. And so when we came to playing them, they were just a lot fresher. They've been able to rotate. They've been in much more comfortable positions in multiple games because of the very apparent difference in quality between them and everyone else in the league. It's not to say it's a bad league. It's not to say that those other players in the league aren't good quality players. It's just to say that mostly PSG's resource is just so much further ahead of everyone else in Liga that obviously it's an interesting watch, but it's not a fair fight, or it doesn't feel as fair. And anyone who's able to level those tables, I have a lot of respect for. And I think Liverpool needed to look to address that. We knew that that was going to be something we were looking to address this season. Fatigue, but also just player burnout was something that for a very long time kind of not blighted Liverpool, but been a bit of an issue. And that was mostly because in the Klopp years, we played with intensity. There were times where we switched to be a smart side who played this balanced style of football, but that didn't always work out for us. It didn't always favour us. It didn't always play in the way that Klopp wanted to. And ultimately, you've got to stick to a manager's personality and a manager's ethos. And that will be, the dedication to that will win out in the end. If you have, obviously, a series of good things go alongside that. But you get what I'm saying, right? And we've addressed that over this summer. We've addressed, it's not about one in, one out, even though that kind of is the way that Liverpool went this summer. It's about consolidating, which is something I've been saying for the whole summer. It's about something I've been saying, and we've been saying on this channel since before the summer began. Bringing in quality that someone like Arne Slot can then maximize and work with. And last season, it was great. We did have depth in the squad, but we also dealt with a lot of injuries in that depth. And we also dealt with a lot of those depth people not necessarily being the profile that Slot wanted to bring on. And what seems very evident for me over the summer, especially in buying Ekitike at the same time as targeting Isak, is that, well, first of all, we brought in two really good quality guys who are world-class players. Ekitike is a world-class, if not verging into world-class player, and Isak is already in that category, so tick and tick. And then obviously we've got Wirtz, but we can talk about Wirtz more in a second. Both of them are strikers. Both of them are people who can go out there and get us goals. Similar to probably Diaz. Similar at times to Nunez, but I would say that there's definitely a more repeatable confidence and output element with especially someone like Ekitike. And obviously the Isak side of things, that's just very different. Like that guy is just he's a walking legend. I really hope he works out. That's fine. Anyway. We've addressed that. At times last year, you could tell that Liverpool, overall, were putting ourselves in a position where we weren't playing a favoured tactical structure. And Slot was having to adapt what it was that he wanted to do, even though the adaptability was working, even though we won the league, even though, there were multiple times where I think we played a really great tactical style and we showed that we were a confident side and we showed that we were well bonded and all those kind of things. That was never the problem for Slot. The problem was the fit. The problem was the, how can I put it, like the overall stack of fatigue and build-up of players playing too many minutes because he didn't necessarily trust everyone in every position, and players needing to do more when other players came on the field. So, for instance, if we did have Nunez on the field, we would end up in a position where someone else was having to do more of the attacking work. in order to kind of make up for some of his deficiencies. And that would make other players more tired, put more, it's not about minutes, it's about the amount of work you do in those minutes. Whereas now our game management is very much, and like we've been saying again for some time, the goal at Liverpool has been to have rotating players who can not only come in and keep the quality high, but change the tactical advantages that we have and give us a slightly different skew on the way that we attack the opposition, whilst also not raising the amount of work that other people in the team have to do and making it harder overall as weeks go on and games get played for us to make it through a full 90 or for us to make it through 70 or 80 minutes. Ideally, Liverpool would be dominating games early on or conserving what it is that they have in the tank in order to get those benefits and in order to save our legs for the points where we do have to play later in the season. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And very often, I think, especially when you look at some other big sides, we've come out the gates very, very strong under Klopp, and that was fantastic. But even the season where we went like 25 or 26 unbeaten, what was it? We were intense, but we certainly managed it. And we certainly looked to manage the minutes in everyone's legs. And you can see, a lot of people now are talking about Trent's minutes in that time, Konate's minutes, just people looking exhausted at the end of this era and not being able to play to the same standard. Because again, it's about your aerobic capability. It's about the amount of input that you have on a game, not only from just being on the field. You can play a very basic numbers game, but I think Liverpool are playing a much more complex game when it comes to monitoring people's minutes, how Arne Slot manages those minutes, how that then tactically has a repercussion, such as us needing to, or being able to, rotate high quality players in, but also being able to change the tactical shape, manage games and not let them get away from us, or not let us get into a position where we need to put in more effort again. And having a tactical style which allows us that level of control, which is why Liverpool looking at a new contract for Arne Slot. We're looking at moving on certain players like Konate. We weren't willing to offer them high wages, but we were willing to offer Alexander Isak high wages. We were willing to offer lots of other players really, substantial deals, because those guys were good in-game managers. They were great leaders. They were great people who made the players around them better. They were multipliers, not dividers. And I know that it's very hard after you've just won a title, especially for us as fans, to kind of have that tactical insight of, oh, well, this guy was maybe taking away from this at times. Oh, could he have been better? Whatever it is. But ultimately, that's what Liverpool are having to do this summer. They're having to look at how we can tactically exploit the opposition whilst conserving energy and putting ourselves in a much more advantageous position against people like PSG. Anyway, I'm sure that you understand. I'm sure you get the concept. It's not actually that hard. But I think all of Liverpool's buys this summer have been with that in mind. We've seen that Liverpool have consolidated up front. We will be able to play a much more consistent front line with Ekitike. Much more consistently high standard front line with Ekitike, Salah, Wirtz, Isak. Gakpo has just signed a new contract. That's mainly because, again, he's a multiplier. He's a consolidator. He's high quality. He can play in multiple positions. And it means that mid-game, we can switch from a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2 or a 5-3, whatever you want to call it. And Gakpo can play multiple different positions very comfortably. There aren't many teams out there right now who are able to do that or have got the tactical time and acumen to be able to do that, because they're still working on a lot of these things. They're still bringing a lot of those things together. And we have the luxury of being able to do that because of what Slot achieved last season. So we need to double down on that. Some people are talking about, well, when you're the champions, you go out there and you get these big players. That's one aspect of that. When you're the champions, you go out there and you try to continue the culture of success, which a lot of people aren't able to cultivate because they're either lagging behind, they're losing players because those people didn't win last season, or there is a whole new project going on because they're rebuilding. Our rebuilds are on the fly in the same way as everyone else's rebuilds are on the fly. But that doesn't mean that we need to do it in the same way as everyone else, or that it needs to feel like it's on the fly in the same way as everyone else. And you saw that this summer. People expected Liverpool to go out there and be humble. We are very much fundamentally changing the mentality of the club and the way that we approach things. This is much more Liverpool under Paisley, which was a dominant, horrible to play, adaptable, ultimately, like, league-wise and financially dominant team that went out there and could attract big names. It's all well and good throwing the cash around. We've seen lots of teams throw cash around, but you've got to, if you do throw cash around and you can attract those big names, do that. You've built that position. This isn't as if Liverpool have just come out of nowhere and just started just kind of like, oh, we might spend some money now because, we've got a new owner and that's why the players are coming. They're not coming for that reason. I'm sure they're coming for the financial reasons. They're not only coming for that reason. And that's what we've built to. We should be capitalizing on that. We as fans should be doubling down on that, and we should be making it that we make it easier for the team ultimately. This garden smells great. Look at that. It smells really fresh here today. Look at that. Lovely. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. There is membership down there. Of course, there is also a Patreon. There is also Discord that's absolutely free. Go and get in there, and I'll chat to you guys in a while. Much love. Bye.